Welcome to Becoming Church, the podcast where we discuss how the message and movement of Jesus is not just about becoming Christians, but about becoming the church. I'm your host, Kristen Mockler-Young, and my guest today is Joseph Yu. Joseph is a Korean-American Episcopal priest who pastors oddballs and outcasts out of an old bakery in Texas. You might also know Joseph from Instagram or TikTok, where he shares stories of faith in his real life. He's here today to talk about belonging, who it's for, and how we can find it. So if you know someone who feels overlooked or maybe even excluded from a church community, send them this episode right now and invite them to listen with you. All right, Joseph, welcome to the Becoming Church podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you. We're both in hats, but I'm in a winter hat because it's freezing here.
It's cold here, but not freezing yet.
Yes, you're in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Will it get actually freezing?
It does, but our power grid shuts down when it gets cold, so we're not looking forward to it.
Oh no! So are generators like a common thing?
Yeah, because I still haven't gotten the why this is, but Texas has its own grid, so it doesn't share with the national grid. So and it's not very well kept. So when it's super hot, we have a chance of outages. When it's super cold, we have a chance of outages.
Oh my God.
So any weather, we understand that if it gets cold, because it's not a normal thing, that we'll experience problems with electricity, but we don't understand why there's a problem when it's hot, because it's Texas.
That's so funny. Yeah, it is Texas, you would think. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad you're here. We'll pray for no outages while we're recording this episode. So first things first, before we really get into it, we both pastor churches called Mosaic.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Okay, so we do have to establish, I guess, whose wins? Maybe?
Isn't it Erwin McManus, the original Mosaic? That's the first Mosaic ever.
If we're being honest. When was your Mosaic established?
2019. And honestly, it was I did not choose the name. It was told that I have to pick this name. I have to keep the name because our church branched off of a nonprofit called Mosaic in Action.
Okay.
And we're a unique Episcopal church because most Episcopal churches have names after saints or like Trinity or Holy Spirit. So we're probably one of the few that doesn't have anything related to the Bible or a saint.
Interesting. So Mosaic is not necessarily a unique name, but in the Episcopal the tradition it is.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are just about to turn 20.
Oh my goodness.
Started in 2006. Yeah. So we've been around a little bit, not quite as long as Erwin's, but for a little while. Do people confuse you all the time?
At first, the very, very beginning, when we were talking, people kept asking, is this related to Mosaic in LA? And I was like, see, this is why I don't want this name. But nowadays, no one has brought up any other. There's actually another Mosaic village church who I'm friends with, and the pastor's Korean. So I'm like, how do we both end up in Houston and pastoring a church called Mosaic? So it's a common name, but no one has brought up Erwin McManus since 2019.
That is funny. See, we get it all the time. There's also another Mosaic pastored by Mark Demaz, who's a friend of ours in Arkansas. So there's Mosaics everywhere. And I think where I get it mostly is in our sermon clips on TikTok or on Instagram.
Oh, that makes sense.
And people will be like, oh, something mega church. I'm like, oh, no.
Our summer clips are so low res and so whatever that no one's going to mistake us for. In fact, I shared it with a church last Sunday. Someone commented on one of the sermon clips I posted and it's like, that's the ugliest church I've ever seen. So no one's we meet out of what used to be a bakery.
And
we're in a strip mall. And we're just doing the best with our space. So literally we have sound panels on the wall in between, and in between the two sound panels is a cross, so it is not aesthetically pleasing, nor does it look like a church, but it works.
That's okay. Listen, our church started in a AMC movie theater, and we've met in multiple high schools, and then I don't even know what you would call the other building, just a community center. Before we got into our own building now. So
the thing I'm not complaining about is, when you did the high school stuff in the community, there's a setup and a breakdown crew, and I'm like, yes. we never had to do that. So I'm thankful. We had this building from the beginning. So there was it's a building that's falling apart and the landlord doesn't want anything but the money. But we don't have to set up and break down every single week. And I am grateful for that.
Praise Jesus. Truly.
Exactly.
Listen,
I don't know. That's one of the fastest burnouts of volunteers. But, and my brother did it for 10 years for at his church in Hawaii. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I'm glad we never had to experience that.
It is a special and unique like bonding time
for
the people that like the team that I ended up setting up and tearing down with. But once you're out of it too, it's like, oh, please God, never again. Like, well, Joseph, we obviously have to start with like a quick fire list of Mosaic related questions.
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to happen, right? So here's what I want to know. If someone was going to make a mosaic of you, what would all the little pieces be made out of?
A lot, it would be, family.
Okay.
And a lot of pop culture.
Okay. Love it.
and I think that's about it.
Okay. It's pretty good. I would have like some coffee beans thrown in there, some glitter.
Oh, coffee.
Probably,
You're right. Coffee. How could I forget coffee? I haven't had coffee yet. So, this is going to be interesting. I haven't had coffee yet.
Oh, see, I like brush my teeth and head immediately to the coffee pot, like before my eyes were even open. All right. If God were to make a mosaic of your life, what piece would surprise people the most?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Because I'm fairly transparent as well. I stopped being transparent and start being translucent as possible.
Okay.
I don't
Explain
think there's that. Well, like the people. I am from a space where I relate to people with their stories and their struggles, and like I have never been into apologetics. I've always was interested in my youth pastors and pastors. Okay, well, how does this affect you, and how does this affect us, right? Mm-hmm. But through that, you really get to learn about the pastor and whatnot. And so I've always appreciated it. So I want to be as open as possible. But there are things that people don't need to know, right? Yes. Like there are stories. Here's your struggle, and I'll let people in about this much, and then these kind of things, like, a lot of times the struggles is with them, like it's church struggle, right? Like I won't tell them. So being translucent as possible. I've been trying to be, as open as possible. I'm pretty sure there's something that will be surprising. Just, like I do tend to be sarcastic and a little bit mean. In all my youth groups, the name that people gave me was Pastor Jerk. And I told people I earned that name.
Okay, Joseph, at least you own it. Okay.
So, there's that might be surprising. And yeah, like sarcasm is my love language. And the sad thing is sarcasm does not travel on internet. So like when I comment something, I'm just like, I'm not going to comment anymore because how I would comment, I see as a joke. No one else sees it as a joke. And it's just going to cause a whole thing. And I'm like, but maybe sarcastic and just a little bit of a mean streak in me.
Okay. Well, we'll lean on the sarcasm over like the meanness. And you're right. Sarcasm, I've had to learn the hard way myself. It doesn't translate in ministry all the time, right?
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't either.
Like my crowd, my people, my church, they know me, they get my jokes, whatever. But in other places, they do. They're like, wait, what did you just say? And it's like, oh, yeah. You didn't know. You don't know where I'm coming from in this.
I was at a grocery store and I had to pick up a case of beer for my friend. I was going to his house and I forgot I was wearing my collar. So I put it on the conveyor belt, and the shopper in front of me, she looks at the beer, looks at me, looks at the beer, and looks at me, looks at the beer, and looks at me, and clearly confused that, this is Texas. And she must have been evangelical. And I said, and she looked at me, she goes, she's like, aren't you a pastor? I'm like, yes. And she's like, but you work at a church? I'm like, why do you think the beer's for? And her face just dropped. And I was like, oh, okay.
You're like,
I thought it was
clearly
funny.
Never worked in ministry before. Oh, that's so funny. People, man, we could do we're not going to, we could do a whole episode on like the expectations that people outside of ministry have of ministry leaders. Wild.
Do you get people thinking you make a lot of money?
I don't think so.
I've had a couple
people. Do you get
people,
that often?
I have enough to be like, hey, you guys, I'm fixing to show you my W-2.
Oh my gosh, no, I don't think no. I've never had that one.
Yeah, because I think a lot of, and we're in Houston, Joel Osteen's country. So,
fair.
I think a lot of things that people see with ministers are those televangelists. So I think there's this like underlying assumption that almost all pastors make that kind of money. I'm like, no.
No, we don't. And guess what? I also tithe 10 or more actually % of it back to my own church. So
I know our treasurer is fairly new at this, and he's like, "Why do you keep giving money to the church?" And I was like,
"Tithe, my guy."
Because my parents instilled in me. He's like, "But," and I was like, "Just don't worry about it."
Yeah. Well, we always just are like, we're not going to ask our people to do something that we won't ourselves do. So like, it feels kind of weird that it's like, this is partly paying my salary, but also it's still generosity. It's generosity of heart and spirit, and we're supposed to do it. So
I'm going to call out my Methodist colleagues. When I was going through ordination in California, we were sitting in this table, and there were 6 clergy of us we were just going through the ordination process, and we were having these deep discussions, and money came up. And 5 of these pastors, each of them came up with excuses not to give to the church. And I'm sitting there, and like, like my parents were almost fanatic about what they do, because my dad's a pastor, a Korean pastor at that.
Okay.
And I was like, you guys don't give at all to your church? And they're like, well, we have loans. And I was like, I get that, but how are you going to stand in front of people and ask them to give when you're not willing to give?
Exactly.
And they're like, well, I'm like, there's no well, like of course your church is going to struggle because you don't believe in its mission enough to contribute to. So, but I don't know if that's a more of like a evangelical Korean thing, and like the mainline denomination people have slowly drifted away from that, but it was jarring.
I don't know. Well, good on you for looking. 2 mosaics. We both tithe back to our own churches. That's great. That's good. Something that I read on your church website, actually, you have a Rachel Held Evans quote, which she's one of my all-time favorites. And you said, this is what God's kingdom is like: a bunch of outcasts and oddballs gathered at a table, not because they are rich or worthy or good, but because they are hungry and because they said yes, and there's always room for more. Mm-hmm. So tell me, Joseph, about your Mosaic oddballs and outcasts. What do you love the most about them?
Yeah. So when we were starting this church in 2019, we were trying to figure out what separates us from every single church. And at that time, there was like a new church plant popping up every 3 months or so, because it's Texas.
Yeah.
And we decided that, this is complete marketing and branding strategy, which I know some people get really uncomfortable talking about when it comes to church. Mainline denomination people, the older generation, is like, why is this marketing? God is enough. I'm like, yeah, but so we leaned on. There's only 2 churches in Pearland that are completely openly affirming and accepting. That church, the other church, is the one that helped us start, planted us. So we leaned into that, and our first big things that we're inclusive. And so now we're getting people who don't have a space in normal churches, who might be having a same-sex partner, and they don't have to pretend that they're sisters or best friends. They can come and hold hands and just be themselves and not be stressed out about it. There's a lot of people who bounce in and out because they're deconstructing, and they don't want to do the evangelical thing, so they want to see what we're about, and they come here. And so we're just our whole my friend's church plant in downtown Houston, he has, their tagline is to be a church for people who don't have a church. And I can't steal that because we're both Episcopalians in the same diocese. So we're just trying to create space for people to be. And we have a few people who are not Christians. We have, and I didn't realize how controversial this was, but my church planting colleagues, were really surprised that our worship leader, I don't know what he is. He might be agnostic at best.
Okay.
But, he went to Catholic school, so I don't think he wants to visit religion at all. Uh-huh. But, like, and I did that intentionally, to pick someone who's not like a praise leader by trade. Mm-hmm. So we're just hoping that anyone who needs community, we are there. And usually it's the people that can't find comfort in the hundreds of churches in our area. So we are a bunch of oddballs and outcasts.
I love it. I call our people the misfits. They're not all misfits, but we have a lot of misfits, you know? I think it's the Message translation of, gosh, I forget, but the parable when the guy is like, you know, trying to throw the party and nobody comes. And Jesus says in the Message translation, paraphrase, he says, go out and get the misfits. And that stuck. I was like,
that's great.
Those are our people. But you're exactly right. Like, I think what you're doing is beautiful. I think, and if, you know, our church is similar because you're a worship leader or the person that's on stage or whatever you want to call him, right? Jesus said he did not come for the healthy, he came for the sick. So like, let's bring in the people that actually need to know more about Jesus. Like, and that's the best place for him to be.
From what I'm seeing is he's absorbing, he's paying attention. We talk about it, but you know, maybe one day he'll secretly be like, no, I believe this stuff. But I haven't been pushing it.
Good, great.
Nobody, we don't talk about it, and you know, I don't like say out loud to the church, oh yeah, by the way, you know, like Nick's not a believer either. It fits with our ethos and like what we're trying to do.
Well, and you're being Jesus to him. You're loving him where he is. You're providing community where he is.
Like, and we're paying him.
And you're paying him. Listen.
I think that's the most important thing of all the things that we're doing for him. We are paying him.
Yes. Love it. Well, Joseph, tell me about like the evolution of your faith and what it has looked like across your life.
Oh my gosh. So I grew up as a pastor's kid. And at the age of 4, apparently, I have to start earlier.
Okay.
Apparently, when my mother was pregnant with me, this was before you could reveal the sex of your child. So she said like around 6 months pregnancy, she would go to church every single morning and pray that if God gave her a son, she would dedicate him to ministry. Basically, the Hannah prayer.
Okay. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And and then when I was 4 years old, apparently I told my dad that I wanted to be a pastor just like him. And my dad took that as gospel. Like looking back, I'm like, dude, I'm 4 years old. What are you doing?
Right, you're like, yesterday I said I wanted to be a firefighter.
So he started telling his friends and all that stuff. And so this idea became that when I grow up, I was going to be a pastor. And then when I was like 11, 12, or 13, my dad used to call me, the literal translation from Korean would be Little Reverend You. Like, that's how he would call me up. He won't call me Joseph. He'll call me Little Reverend You.
Oh my God.
And like up to like age 13 or 14, I wanted to be a pastor. Why not? Who doesn't want to be like their dad?
Sure.
But then, you know, you start hitting teenagers and the rebellion starts to, you know, streak. And then you just see how my people are treating my dad.
Yeah.
And my mom. And then the expectations of the Korean church. The Korean church often like seems like a lot of Southern Baptists have the same experience. Like, if the pastor can't control his family, how do we expect him to control us?
Okay.
Or lead us on all that stuff, right? So and Koreans are generally competitive and like we're all about showing like whatever. So I'd always have to be the best as possible so that, you know, like parents would be like, look at the pastor's son. Why can't you be like him? That kind of stuff. And my parents never forced that upon me. Just I had to go to church and behave, but like they never went anything beyond the immigrant expectation, right? Like if I bring home a B, I'm not getting dinner or whatever, you know, like the same. Yeah. I gotta get A. So I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. And then I went to University of Hawaii, majored in psychology, and I wanted to be a psychologist.
Okay.
And so I was going to apply to grad school in University of Hawaii during that time. I don't know about now, but back then there was the university had a very strong psychology graduate program. And what I was going to do was I was going to apply to grad school, and then if I got in, I was going to tell my parents. This was my last year in college. Hey, I want to pursue this first. Okay. I'm not saying no to ministry. I just want to pursue this. Before I even got to bring that up, my dad calls me and tells me to come home. And I come home and he says, hey, there's this thing called exploration, which is what I was United Methodist back then.
Okay.
It's a United Methodist conference that happens I don't know if it still does that, but back then it happened every 2 years. And it was for kids from 14 to 25 who are exploring the idea of ministry. And the whole weekend is based upon that. And my dad was like, you're going to go. And it was going to be on the weekend of my 23rd birthday.
Okay.
And I was like, Dad, it's my birthday. He was like, okay, well, happy birthday. you're going.
You're going.
And so it's really funny because when I tell my white friends the story, they're like, you could have said no. But when I tell my immigrant friends the story, they're like, oh yeah, no. I had no choice. So I went to Chicago for the exploration, and then everything just, I can't explain it. It just everything just seemed to fit. And I knew that seminary was my next phase in life, not grad school in psychology. And through seminary, I had to go through this idea of whose calling is this? You know, like, am I fulfilling my dad's dream of me, or is this my calling? And eventually, I realized this was my calling because my dad and I are complete opposite theologically. You know, my dad still holds the traditional evangelical view of, I think my dad might not quite be like a literalist in the Bible, but it's pretty much there. We had this really conversation about how, you know, like everything happens without, nothing happens with the permission of God. Like a bird dies and God, I was like, you know, but the saving grace of our relationship is, one, my dad, his English is very limited and my Korean is very limited. So we can't get into really deep theological thoughts. But because we're so different, I'm like, that's when I realized this was my calling, because if it was my dad's calling, I'd still be at a Korean church, thumping the Bible and saying, you know, but we're, I think my parents just assume that gay people don't exist. I think that's how they manage the world.
Yeah. They're like, if we don't think about it, we don't have to care about it.
Yeah, because they were very upset with the fact that the Methodist Church were fighting over this issue and all that stuff. And I'm not going to say issue, but but here we are. Both my wife and I are. My wife is also a pastor's kid. We're both the outliers of our family's theological spectrum. We're like all the way on the, like almost the point where they probably think that we're not real Christians.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so it was just an evolution of just being around different people and going to a liberal seminary, really shaped the way that, I mean, like from 2003 to 2006, that was our deconstructing period from seminary, but we didn't have that term. And so what I was telling people is like each professor just shatters what you believe, and you have three choices. You can put it back exactly the way it was and with reinforcements, or you could leave it shattered and walk away, or you take the pieces and put together a new mosaic of faith. And so, I chose that option to put pieces together and move forward. And that has, you know, that's not what my family does, both my in-laws and my own.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love the way that you set that up. You have those three different choices, because it's really true. Like, I think deconstruction in and of itself can be one of those terms where it means 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. Some people are like, now you're leaving like middle fingers flying, like burn it all down. But oftentimes that's not. And people are just unlearning to relearn a different version of God and themselves and what the Christian faith actually is.
I mean, I've always felt people who ask, why do I believe this is deconstructing. Like when you ask yourself, okay, wait, why do I really believe this? And what I learned is that people don't ask that.
Right.
They give us way too much power to like, oh, if the pastor says it, I'm like, no, like I am not the smartest person. I'll never pretend to be the smartest person. Like, don't take my word at value. Like, go ahead and push back and like, I love to talk about it. Just be respectful, you know, like don't call me a heretic, and that's not gonna, but like you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid I'm offering.
Yes. Well, and invite Holy Spirit into it. Like if I say something from the pulpit that stirs funny in you, ask God about it. Like God can talk to you by yourself. It doesn't have to come through me. It doesn't have to go through you, you know?
I don't know if it's, but you know, most recently it's almost like if you say something that, you know, perks your heart, instead of like asking why, they shove it down and blame the pastor or blame the other person. Like, no, I'm like, no, ask yourself, why does this bother you? There's no big deal of asking why does this agitate you? Yeah. And you can learn from that. But that's I've learned when I was in Santa Barbara, I pastored a small church that was declining, and the average age was like 70. Oh, and wow. The United Methodist Church has this program, has this branch of the church called reconciling ministries.
Okay.
And basically, since the United Methodist position was very LGBT, a reconciling church meant that it was safe space for the LGBTQ community. So we were talking about having this discussion, and these 70-year-olds were gracious, loving, and then all of a sudden it flipped. And I was like, why? What is going on? And then it hit me, like, these people are 70 years old. They believe certain things for probably 70 years. Wow. If they were to allow this, they have to start asking questions. Well, what else could I have gotten wrong?
Yes.
And that is something that people don't want to do. And so they double down. And I was like, okay, we don't have to do it, but like, we can't say that we're completely open. Right. But I'm not going to press it. So it's just like just that question of why do I feel this way is what people seem to vehemently avoid, because they don't want to do the deconstructing or asking questions, because it's that little string that you pull, right? You don't know how it's going to unravel, so they don't pull it at all.
Yeah, it's easier. It's so much easier to go through life just being like, I know what I believe, and I don't have to think about anything else.
Absolutely,
it's so much easier. Yeah. So, are your parents first generation immigrants?
Yes.
Okay, from Korea.
Yes, we moved here when I was 6 years old.
Okay. Does that give you a different kind of like perspective, or is there like a unique challenge to being an Asian priest?
Yes, in the Episcopal Church, because there's like only one. There's not that many. But just life-wise, I've always been in the in-between spaces, so it gives me more. Like, I wasn't Korean enough for the Koreans. Obviously, I wasn't white enough for the Americans.
Yeah.
When I was in California, I wasn't progressive enough for the progressives, not conservative enough for the conservatives. So there's just always just in between places. And I really was like, where do I belong? I don't know where I belong, but I realized that there's so many people who continually operate in the in between spaces. So I have an affinity for people who just don't know. They're just in the wilderness, just in between two things. Yeah. And pastor's kid. Those two types of people, I have a affinity with, and just I'm drawn to them. And we talk and share stories about our particularly Korean pastor's kids, because I don't think a lot of the Korean pastor kids believe in therapy, but we all need therapy.
You guys can all relate to each other.
Yeah. The things that our families go through. Thankfully, my dad was not the typical, like a lot of Korean kids, pastors' kids grow up resenting the church because their dad is always at the church.
Yeah.
Because there's this underlying thing that if you're not suffering, you're not doing it right, and if you're not sacrificing, you're not doing it right. So it's an honor for the pastors to sacrifice their families in behalf of the ministry, but that's not good for the kids,
right?
But my dad was home all the time, like to the point where I never could get in trouble, because when I come home, both my parents were there.
You're like, give me the chance to do something.
Give me the chance to mess up, man.
You gotta make some choices. Well, I'm sure your experience of feeling like you were always kind of in between two things has led to the way that you have fostered like a sense of belonging at your church. What does it look like? What does belonging look like at Mosaic?
I don't know if I can describe it but I just want people to, I read Brene Brown's book, Heart of the Atlas, I'm 1 degree separation from her. I know she's an Episcopalian. She's in Houston. We were going to do a workshop with her for the diocese, but then it was in 2020 and it got canceled because everything got shut down. So that was my biggest chance. But she wrote that it's different. Fitting in and belonging are not the same.
Yes.
And I was so taken aback about how true and simple that was. And it didn't dawn on me until I read her book. And so we just want people to feel that they can be who they are. We want people to come and be loved and be loved, and don't have to give up anything about who they are. I think, when I was growing up, the motto was believe, behave, belong. First, you got to believe what we believe. Then you got to behave like this, and then you can be part of us. And then, and I was like, that's completely, it wasn't, when I was doing youth group, I was youth ministry. I was like, that's not the way it should be. It should be belong first. Yeah. And then when people feel like they're safe and this is a trusted place, their guards go down. Yeah. And you're able to tell them this is what we believe. And the behavior part, we're not here to control. A lot of us do treat Jesus as a behavior modification thing. But Jesus doesn't want to change us from the outside in. Because if we change from the outside in, we're just going to change our behavior and our heart doesn't change. Jesus wants to change from the inside out. When our heart changes, everything else changes. So if someone feels like they belong and then they fully believe, we don't have to worry about how they behave because it's gonna seep in. Like they're gonna want to be an active Christian who does good for the world. So, that's the way that that's the way I've been approaching ministry and letting people know that you don't have to believe what we believe. We just want you to, but we will have community with you. You don't have to believe everything that the pastor says. You don't have to believe what we do. We just want you to come and feel loved and know that you are loved, and then go and be loved. Like it's a, like, maybe you're in a space of time where all you can do is receive love. That's great. We will love you as much as we can. But there is a point where you have to go and be loved because that's the greatest commandment is twofold. It's love God and love your neighbor. Yeah. So that's the way that we've been approaching ministry. I don't know how to make people feel like they belong, but like I said, like when a gay couple walks in and they're able to be themselves without like wondering who's going to side eye them or if they're going to get kicked out of church, like that in of itself is a huge thing for me, that they can be wonderfully themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people's church experience, I'm realizing more and more that a lot of the people that we think are like unchurched are not unchurched. They're like, I don't know if de-churched. They have been in church. They've had church experiences. They're just choosing to not actively be in one right now.
Right.
Because their experience was, like you said, a ticking off of all the right boxes in order to belong.
Yeah.
So when you kind of offer up this model for people, like that gay couple, like you said, if they were to walk in, do you have to almost convince them? Like, does it take convincing of like, you can belong here or,
Not really. Maybe in the beginning it did, but, like, we are not shy about our, maybe we should be because we are in a very red district. But, we have like a pride flag hanging out one of the storefronts at the end. So like when people come in, they'll see that, when they pull up to the, parking lot, they'll see a sign that says church on the, front, whatever big sign. And then on the window is a pride flag. They're like, what? So that in of itself probably either, lets people know that they can belong or this is not the church for them. But like now there's not that much, people don't come in wondering, they just come. Especially, it's starting February of this year was when people, started coming because they have found me online. Like they said, oh, we saw you on Instagram or whatever. And so for those people coming in, then they should know what we're about because they've been listening to me for a little bit. So there's no confusion so I think now, people just come in knowing that they can be, that they are, that Jesus, like we don't want to change them, but we want them to be transformed by the love of Christ.
Yeah.
And that's what we seek to, provide is just like, we don't want to change who you are, but if you love Jesus, that love just naturally flows outward, particularly to the marginalized of our community. So let's be loved and let's be loved.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference there between change and transformation is like, change is we are going to tell you how to change. We're going to say, we know where you are.
Yes. And the outside in.
We're going to dictate where you're going, right? Yeah. How you're going to look different. Transformation, no one can predict.
Right.
Like, I don't think anybody can say, hey, Joseph or Kristen, when you are transformed through Jesus, you're going to become like this. Like, we don't know. Right. You know what I mean? And so Holy Spirit gives us like unique burdens and things to care about and things to do. I had no idea that I was going to care about social justice at all. Not 1 degree, not 1%, truly. Because growing up, I lived in this little bubble. And if it didn't affect me, I had the privilege of not needing to care.
Right.
My transformation, now when I tell people that now, people have just met me in the last couple of years, they're shocked. But I'm like, no, that's actually what transformation means. Like, you just become the person that God wants you to be and the person that the people around you, like the reflection of Jesus that they need to see,
Yeah.
What do you think, or what do you wish, I guess, the churches that hold back belonging, right? Because there are churches that keep back belonging until behavior is changed or whatever. What do you wish those churches knew or understood?
the difference between love and control. Love and control is such a fine line. And a lot of times we are controlling, thinking that it's love.
Yeah.
And, like, change, as you say, like we try to curb people's behavior to be this, what we feel is a good Christian, but we're not doing anything. We're just, like changing the color of the building. Like that's not going to change anything, but, like,
yeah.
But just the idea, like everything seems to, the whole, fear of heaven and hell is, it's not love. It's more of control to be like, hey, you need to be this way so you can avoid that. So I just would wish that people will understand that, control and love are very, very, they're so close together that you think you're doing one, you think you're loving, but you're actually controlling. But if you just take a step back and look at how you're approaching, you realize like a lot of these evangelical churches are more about control than they are about love. And I get it. It's difficult. Like, when people are deconstructing, they get excommunicated from the church. That's, for me, I always say they chose the bottom line, right? Because if you have this person that's agitating, asking questions, and those questions are going to start agitating your big givers, like like you need to control this person so that it doesn't affect, Grandma Sally, who's been giving, millions of dollars. Like we don't want to, you don't want to deal with that because you don't want to. So anyway, just, what does it mean to be loving without controlling? Which is easier said than done.
Yeah. Is there one key thing? I mean, I know you said step back and like see how it's happening. Is there one key way that people can tell like if they're operating out of love or out of control?
I don't know. I just think if the Jesus is the plank and the speck, like we see this happen. Like people have gone viral over this, where like someone will approach a young woman and say, "Oh, cover up, whatever. I have kids out here."
Right.
And it's like, when Jesus said, if your right eye causes you to sin, don't tell the person across from you causing that sin to change. It's like, gouge out the other eye. We want to, I think it's human nature to, not try to fix ourselves, but fix others because it's easier.
Oh,
and so
sure.
I think a lot of this control thing would be kind of less if we just sat back and, talked about, like we said earlier, why does this bother me?
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. Yeah.
But instead, we don't want to do like that parent. I understand why that might be discouraging, but, if you're with kids and you see, someone wearing less of a bikini, then I get that. Like you don't want your kid to see that, but then go, you have control, like move over or right, don't look that way or whatever. Right. It's just, but we feel so uncomfortable. We want to go and fix that and tell them what to do instead of, why does this make me feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
So like, I guess introspection would be a great way to, realize or to ask yourself, what's going on here? But most people don't like to do that because it hurts. It's painful. It's
uncomfortable,
annoying.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. It's way easier for me to make you uncomfortable, Joseph, than it is for me to be uncomfortable myself. Yes.
Because this is what Jesus said. Make sure other people feel uncomfortable.
Right? Gospel. So you wrote a book called When the Saints Go Flying In.
Yeah.
Where you connect stories of the saints to contemporary stories. And there's one in particular. I want you to tell us about St. Catherine of Bologna, or however you say that in a fancy way.
The one that has her body still up in the church?
Is it? I know she's a patron saint of art. Is her body still up somewhere?
Google it when we're done.
That is wild. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Google it. St. Catherine of Bologna church. I read that you have to have two miracles attributed to you to become eligible for a saint. Unless you're a martyr, then you need one. But one of the miracles of St. Catherine is that her body did not decompose. So there's just this black. It's just like I thought this was a lie, and I googled it, and I googled it, and I googled it, and now like I can't get that image out of my head, and I'm like,
so don't wants to go to that
church? Like, why would you want to go to a church that has a dead? But what did you know? What did you want to know about St. Catherine?
Well, I wanted to know, I'm trying to get, so you, in your book, I think you connected her to Vincent van Gogh.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. Talk to me about that connection, and I'll tell you why.
So, I feel like I'm not a big art guy, but like art does speak to people in some way. Yeah. And, I did not know that Vincent wanted to be a pastor. That drew me, but like he's been, talk about people being wounded by church. And like he was rejected from seminary, whether because he was poor or not. So he couldn't do that. And instead, the people in charge gave him a small village church. And in that church, he wanted to really live out the gospel of Jesus. So he sold everything he had and gave it to the coal miners who were the most vulnerable in that village. And he slept in like the haystack behind the bakery. And the church was really, really uncomfortable. So they took an offering to say that, live here, we're going to take an offering and we want you to be a normal person. And he took that money and gave it to the coal miners and continued to, be in the back, be houseless. And the church couldn't handle that. So they fired him. Mm-hmm. And so like there's a lot of church trauma that Vincent, painted. And then, or that Vincent experienced. And then when he painted the Starry Night, someone pointed out that the only building without a light on is the church. And if you look at it, it's true. Every single building has a light on, but the church that's in the middle has the lights off. And like, what is he trying to say? And then like knowing his history, the church completely abandoned him, like completely. And all he did was try to live literally like Jesus, selling everything he has and giving it to the poor. And so, I don't know, I don't know what his intentions were, but it's very, very, for me, I take a moment and just pause and wondering, okay, are we a church that keeps their lights off in the dark, or are we going to be the light of the world?
Yeah.
So it's just a thought provoking kind of thing where, I didn't know his history. The only thing I knew about him was like, he cut off his ear. Right. But, how much of the church was responsible for his mental health deteriorating? We played a huge part in that.
Yeah. Well, not we, but yes.
Well, the church.
Yes, for sure. No, we have, our lead pastor, Naim Fazal, was an art major, also did not plan to be in ministry. And he read, oh my gosh, is it Fujimura's book that talks all about Van Gogh and his story? And so we actually have Starry Night hanging in our green room.
Oh, nice.
In our building as like a reminder, because he totally did paint it as an indictment of the church of like, this is.
Oh, so he did. Okay.
He really did. Yeah. And so it's kind of become like this underlying, like unwritten value for us and a reminder of, this is the kind of church that we want to be, not the dark one.
To be the light in the community.
But to be light, exactly. In a world where everybody thinks that the church is still dark. Like, I think a lot of people still believe that, right? Yeah. That like the church is not doing anything to help people. The church is not actually hopeful. What do you think?
You can't blame them for what they're seeing on media.
You can't. But we have to know and believe, right, that there is like Jesus wanted better for the church, that there is a better future.
You know what? The Revelation 3:20 is when Jesus knocks on the door. I remember my church, one of my churches had a wonderful picture of Jesus leaning in with a lamp and just knocking on the door. And it's like, I love how far we've taken it out of context, because Jesus isn't standing outside of a church knocking on the door saying, "Let me in."
Right.
Like it's not a beautiful, it's more of an indictment. Like Jesus is literally standing outside the church saying, knocking, let me in. Right. And I feel like you're right. Like kind of like the lights off at on a Starry Night and Revelation 3:20. It's like, are we, like, what are we really doing here? Are we really following the teachings of Jesus, or are we building our own empire?
Yeah. And that's, again, and one of those, it's going to make you uncomfortable to honestly ask that question, but all of us need to ask that question. What do you think the church needs to do? Like the global church? The American church specifically. Let's be honest. What do you think the church needs to do to change this narrative of like, this is not a hopeful, great place?
I don't know.
Come on, I'm hoping, solve it for us, Joseph, right now.
I'm hoping that this, when this season is over, that this is the death of the Christian nationalist movement.
Yeah. Movement.
But
Yes.
the only thing that we can do is just continue to let people know that there's a different way to approach Christ, and what you see on TV is not it. And I feel like most people are starting to understand that now, like that not all Christians are aligned with Pete Hegseth or whatever. But I don't know if there's anything we can do in like the level of the media that a lot of the Christian nationalists have gotten. But if someone asked, I've been telling people, it's like, it feels like a cop out, but I can't control what the president does. I can't control what Governor Abbott does. I can't control anything that happens in the world. The one thing I can control is me. And I feel like for me in this season, this really fraught and difficult season, what I can do is just be a blessing to someone, just one person at a time. And for I think it was, Alan Hirsch, he defined blessing as helping someone breathe easier for a moment, even if it's for a moment. And so, because, blessing someone could mean anything. Like in Texas, we have, bless your heart, which is not a compliment. Right. It's more of a, so to quantify, to actually make blessings tangible is to say, hey, just help someone breathe easier. And that could be as big as paying someone's rent for a month, or as small as, sending a text. Do whatever you can to help people know that they are seen and they are loved. And one person at a time. That's the only thing I can do. I can't, like I said, I can't control anything else, but what I can control is what I do. And because, I have I don't know how this happened, but because of the platform that I have happened to have, then, I feel a responsibility to also extend that to the social media part. Like, yes, let's just be real. Like, we are not perfect. We made lots of mistakes, and Jesus is probably, rolling his eyes at where the church is going, but not everyone is like that. And there are people who are fighting for there are people who are trying to do, what Jesus told them to do. So, that's the way I'm choosing to solve this issue. It's just one person at a time. Let them feel that. I write a prayer journal and every morning, and each morning I end it with, please help me, place me in a situation where I'll be a blessing to someone. And like I said, a lot of, for people, like for me, sometimes like I always want to do something that has a huge impact. But I realized a long time ago, that's ego. Like, look what I did. It's not like, look what God did. It's like, look what I did. What struck me the most is, Jesus was really good at the little things. I forgot who said this, but I'm going to say I said, Jesus, the miracles that Jesus did faded, right? Like, the people he raised from the dead died. Lazarus eventually died again. The people who he healed got sick again. The people he fed got hungry again. But it's the way that Jesus made them feel, right? Like the lepers who were completely outcast, Jesus touched them. Jesus looked people in the eye. Jesus reminded them of their humanity. And that, I think, was what drew people to Jesus in the end. It was the miracles that got them in the door, but like the way that Jesus did the little things was what brought these followers. And so, like, yes, it's really great if you could buy someone a house, that'd be great. But you know what? Most of us aren't in the position, but you know what we can do is we can make them feel loved and seen and heard. And that might not seem big enough for someone who wants to do something big, but you don't know what that ripple of grace is going to cause in their life and others. So the best thing to do is just continue to be love and let God do the rest.
That's so beautiful. And it's so encouraging for the people that are like, well, I don't have a big social media platform, or, I can't do anything. My story doesn't matter. I mean, you just said, there's so many little tiny things. All of us have enough influence to make someone feel a certain way.
I mean, like literally sending someone a card, like a snail mail card.
Yes.
That goes a lot, especially today. Like that, and even a text out of the blue saying, "Hey, I just was thinking about you. How are you doing?"
Right.
That's not
a voice memo with your own mouth, with your own voice. Yeah.
That's not going to hit the Richter scale of change, but you know what? That person is going to feel loved, and that's good. And you don't know. So like, I'm trying to instead of focusing on making big impacts, like do, as the Mother Teresa said, do small things with great love.
Yeah.
And like, and that Maya Angelou quote, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel.
Right.
And so like, if you help people feel loved, that's going to go a long way in their lives. Yeah. And that does not take effort, right? Like that, you don't need a social media platform. You don't need to have lots of money. You don't need to do, like, just letting someone know that you care about them goes a long way and is cost effective. It's very, but you know, we get busy or we get in our heads. I don't know what we come up with excuses to do things or whatever, but it's do small things with great love and it'll go a long way.
Oh, well, this is very much related, but the last question for you, Joseph, is because the podcast is called Becoming Church, how can listeners become the church to the people around them? Maybe this is a little bit more, not just about loving people, but how can they take their faith out into the world?
Loving your neighbors, just same thing. Just continue, and Richard Rohr wrote that Jesus is not loyal to, political parties or ethnicities or nationalities. Jesus is loyal to suffering. And if you want to really meet Jesus, go where the people are suffering. I think that's one way we become church is to enter into spaces that we know people are struggling and not try to fix them, but to let them know that they're not alone in this journey. Yeah. I can't state enough, just letting people know that they are seen and loved goes such a long way. And it does not take effort. You don't have to plan a 4-day retreat and all that stuff. It's just being a decent human being, being kind goes a long way. And it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
And being kind really helps you become church because, like we don't, my atheist friends use words or describe stuff where I would be like, oh, that's, for me, I would say that's the Spirit moving. Like we all have this. We just have different ways to describe it based upon our beliefs. But the underlying is being kind is in every religion, every ethos, and we as Christians should excel in it because that's what Jesus told us to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was so encouraging. And listen, you have been a blessing to me today. So I know that you've been a blessing to our listeners as well. We will link up the book and your social media and all the things so people can find you. You can be a blessing to someone today. And my guess is you are already doing it without even realizing it. So when we put just a little intention behind the way we live, just think about all of the goodness and hope and truth and light that God can bring to people through you. Saying yes and taking those tiny steps of obedience when Holy Spirit prompts you to text or call or reach out or help won't change you into a good Christian, but they will be part of your transformation and looking more and more like Jesus. And that is the point of this whole Christianity thing. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep becoming the church to the people around you.